The Taklamakan Desert is one of the largest and most hostile sandy deserts on Earth. It stretches across southern Xinjiang for more than 1,000 kilometers, where enormous dunes, frequent sandstorms, and extreme temperatures have made much of its interior almost impossible to inhabit. For centuries, travelers followed the edges of the desert because crossing the center could mean death. But today, China is moving directly into the heart of the Taklamakan, not to build a new city or another transport corridor, but to reach the enormous oil and gas deposits buried beneath it. Some of these reservoirs sit inside rocks more than 500 million years old, under temperatures above 200 degrees Celsius and pressures capable of destroying ordinary drilling equipment. Yet, China has already turned this difficult region into its largest ultra-deep oil and gas production base. So, how did China learn to reach resources buried almost 11 kilometers underground? And why is Beijing spending so much money to develop them? The project sits inside the Tarim Basin, a vast oil and gas region covering around 560,000 square kilometers in southern Xinjiang. The Taklamakan Desert occupies much of its center, while the Tian Shan Mountains rise to the north and the Kunlun Mountains form its southern boundary. From the surface, the area appears almost empty, but deep underground, the basin contains several layers of oil and gas deposits formed hundreds of millions of years ago. However, the Tarim Basin did not begin as a desert. Hundreds of millions of years ago, ancient seas covered parts of this region. Organic material collected on the seabed became buried under layers of sediment and slowly transformed into oil and natural gas. Later, the movement of the Earth's crust pushed, folded, and fractured these layers, trapping hydrocarbons inside rocks far below the surface. This process created enormous resources, but it also left behind extremely complicated geology. The Tarim Basin experienced at least 8 major periods of tectonic movement. Each one changed the position of the underground rock layers and created new faults, folds, and fractures. Chinese geologists often compare the result to a stack of plates that someone smashed and then kicked several times. Unlike many conventional fields, the oil and gas in Tarim do not always collect inside large and clearly defined reservoirs. Much of the oil sits inside narrow fractures and underground cavities within ancient carbonate rock. Some of these formations are more than 450 million years old. A drilling team can spend months sinking a well several kilometers into the earth, miss the correct fracture by a short distance, and find almost nothing. Depth adds another problem. More than 74% of the basin's proven oil and gas reserves lie below 4,500 meters. The most valuable new targets now sit beyond 6,000 meters, which the industry classifies as ultra-deep. According to Chinese estimates, the Tarim Basin contains more than half of the country's oil and gas resources found below 8,000 meters. But estimates of underground resources do not tell companies how much they can actually recover. The oil may exist, but engineers still need to locate a productive fracture, reach it safely, and keep the well operating under extreme temperature and pressure. For decades, China could do none of those things reliably. The basin appeared to contain enormous amounts of energy, but much of it remained beyond the reach of the drilling equipment and geological knowledge available at the time. China first began searching for oil and gas in the Tarim Basin during the 1950s, but the early results fell far below expectations. Between the late 1950s and early 1980s, exploration teams launched 5 separate campaigns in the region. They drilled more than 130 exploratory wells, but found only 2 medium-sized oil and gas fields. The problem was not a lack of resources. China simply lacked the technology needed to map and drill through Tarim's complicated underground structures. Seismic surveys produced unclear results. Drilling equipment struggled at greater depths, and the desert had few roads or supply bases. Even when teams found natural gas, there was no practical way to transport large volumes from Xinjiang to the major cities of eastern China. The first major change came in 1988, when the Lunan 2 well struck oil near the northern edge of the Taklamakan. The discovery confirmed that the basin could support commercial production and encouraged China to begin a much larger exploration campaign. In April 1989, the government established the Tarim Petroleum Exploration and Development Headquarters in Korla. More than 20,000 workers, engineers, and geologists arrived in the region, while construction teams began building roads, production facilities, and support bases. New discoveries followed at Lunan, Tazhong, and several other areas around the basin. During the 1990s, China also started finding large natural gas deposits beneath the foothills of the Tian Shan Mountains. One of the most important was the Kela 2 gas field, discovered in 1998. Its large reserves and high well productivity helped support the decision to build the first west-east gas pipeline. Construction of that pipeline began in 2002, and commercial operations started in 2004. Stretching for around 4,000 kilometers, it connected the gas fields of Xinjiang with major markets in eastern China, including Shanghai. For the first time, Tarim could send its natural gas directly to the regions that needed it most. Production increased quickly after the pipeline opened. Tarim oil field passed 20 million tons of oil equivalent in 2008 and reached 30 million tons in 2020. But as the easier deposits matured, China had to look farther underground to maintain that growth. This pushed the entire development toward reservoirs buried below 6,000 meters. Drilling an oil well several kilometers underground is difficult in any location, but the Tarim Basin combines almost every major problem the industry can face. Engineers must deal with extreme depth, high temperatures, enormous pressure, and broken rock formations while supporting each operation from the middle of a remote desert. The first problem is the length and weight of the drilling system. To reach a reservoir 8,000 meters underground, crews must lower kilometers of connected steel pipe into a narrow well. The deeper the drill travels, the more weight the rig must carry and control. The pipe can stretch, bend, or become trapped against the well wall, while constant rotation places the metal under severe stress. Temperature also rises with depth. Inside the deepest Tarim wells, it can exceed 200 degrees Celsius. At this level, electronic sensors can stop working, rubber seals can fail, and drilling fluids can lose their required properties. Engineers need these fluids to cool the drill bit, carry broken rock back to the surface, and keep the well stable. If the fluid becomes too thin or too thick, the well can collapse or drilling can stop completely. Pressure creates an even greater danger. Some Tarim reservoirs hold oil and gas at more than 100 megapascals. That is roughly 1,000 times normal atmospheric pressure. If crews fail to control it, gas and drilling fluid can rush up the well and cause a blowout. Every section, therefore, requires high-strength steel casing, specialized cement, and heavy well control equipment. The geology makes it difficult to predict what the drill will encounter next. One section may contain extremely hard rock that quickly damages the drill bit, while the next may contain weak or fractured rock that breaks apart around the well. Drilling fluid can also escape into natural cracks, reducing pressure inside the well and increasing the risk of collapse. Even reaching the correct depth does not guarantee success. Many of Tarim's oil deposits sit inside narrow faults, fractures, and underground cavities rather than one continuous reservoir. A well can pass close to a productive zone but fail to connect with it. Each unsuccessful attempt can consume months of work and cost millions of dollars. Conditions above ground add another layer of difficulty. Sandstorms can block roads and bury equipment, while summer temperatures can rise above 40 degrees Celsius. For years, these conditions placed much of Tarim's oil and gas beyond China's technical reach. Developing the basin required the country to create an entire drilling system designed specifically for ultra-deep operations. To develop the Tarim Basin, China had to redesign almost every stage of the drilling process. Equipment that worked in shallower fields could not operate reliably at depths of 8,000 or 10,000 meters, so Chinese companies developed stronger rigs, heat-resistant materials, and new systems for locating narrow reservoirs far below the desert. One of the most important pieces of equipment is China's first automated drilling rig designed to reach 12,000 meters. The rig can lift and control hundreds of tons of drill pipe, while automated equipment handles many of the most dangerous tasks on the drilling floor. This reduces the number of workers standing close to moving pipes and heavy machinery. The drill bit also needs constant information from underground. Sensors placed behind it measure temperature, pressure, direction, and the properties of the surrounding rock. These systems send data back to the surface while drilling continues, allowing engineers to adjust the path of the well. Instead of drilling straight down, they can gradually turn the well and guide it sideways through a productive fault or fracture. Before drilling begins, geologists use three-dimensional seismic surveys to map the rock layers. They create these images by sending vibrations into the ground and measuring how the signals return from different formations. Tarim's broken geology often produces unclear results, but more powerful computers and improved processing methods now allow teams to identify targets that older surveys could not detect. China also developed drilling fluids capable of remaining stable at around 220 degrees Celsius. These fluids cool the equipment, control underground pressure, and carry pieces of rock to the surface. Engineers study those fragments to determine which formation the drill has entered and whether it contains signs of oil or gas. Shenditake 1 well brought many of these technologies together in a single operation. It is Asia's deepest vertical well and the world's second deepest borehole. PetroChina began drilling the scientific well in May 2023 in Shaya County, near the center of the Taklamakan Desert. It crossed the 10,000-meter mark in March 2024 and reached a final depth of 10,910 meters in early 2025. The operation passed through more than a dozen geological formations and reached rocks formed during the Cambrian period, over 500 million years ago. Shenditake 1 was not built to become a major production well. Its main purpose was to collect geological data, test Chinese drilling equipment, and determine whether oil and gas could exist at depths approaching 11 kilometers. After reaching the final section, PetroChina reported signs of hydrocarbons in the ultra-deep formations. The well proved that China could reach this depth, but the larger challenge is turning that technical achievement into reliable commercial production. That work is already taking place at the Fumen oil field. The clearest example of commercial production is Fumen, China's largest ultra-deep oil field. It lies in the central section of the Taklamakan Desert and covers an exploration area of more than 17,000 square kilometers. That makes it larger than several small countries, but the oil does not sit inside one continuous underground reservoir. Fumen consists of many separate deposits trapped along a network of deep faults and fractures. Most of the resources lie between 7,500 and 10,000 meters below the surface. PetroChina estimates that the wider field contains more than 1 billion tons of oil and gas resources, although only part of that amount has been confirmed as recoverable. China began making major discoveries in this section of the basin during the 2010s. Better seismic imaging allowed geologists to trace fault lines hidden beneath several kilometers of rock. PetroChina accelerated development after 2020. Fumen produced around 3.3 million tons of oil and gas equivalent in 2022, followed by more than 4 million tons in 2023. In 2025, output reached approximately 4.6 million tons. This growth made the field one of the main sources of new crude oil production in the Tarim Basin. However, drilling more wells would achieve little without facilities to process and transport their output. In February 2023, PetroChina began building a new central oil and gas processing station inside the field. The company completed the project and placed it into operation that November. Construction included a crude oil treatment system with an annual capacity of 2 million tons, natural gas processing equipment, and more than 220 kilometers of new gathering pipelines. These smaller pipelines connect individual wells to the central station, where equipment separates crude oil, natural gas, and water before sending the products into the wider pipeline network. Fumen shows that China has moved beyond drilling individual record-breaking wells. It is now developing ultra-deep oil as a large industrial operation, with dozens of production sites working together across the desert. And Fumen is only one part of the much larger energy system beneath the Tarim Basin. However, drilling the wells is only part of the project. China also had to build an industrial network across the Taklamakan so that equipment could reach remote drilling sites and the oil and gas could leave the desert. The first major step was the Tarim Desert Highway. Construction began in 1993, and the main route opened in 1995. It runs for more than 500 kilometers between Lunan and Minfeng, crossing the Taklamakan from north to south. Before the highway opened, reaching the desert's interior required long journeys over loose sand, making large-scale oil development extremely difficult. Keeping the road open created another challenge. Moving dunes could cover sections of pavement in a short period, so engineers planted a protective shelter belt along hundreds of kilometers of the route. Wells pump salty underground water into irrigation systems that support drought-resistant shrubs on both sides of the highway. Workers also place straw grids across exposed sand to slow the movement of dunes. From this main highway, smaller roads extend toward drilling sites, processing stations, and worker camps. Much of this infrastructure receives less attention than the record-breaking wells, but it made large-scale production possible. Without the roads, processing stations, and pipelines above the sand, the resources buried beneath the Taklamakan would have little commercial value. For centuries, the Taklamakan Desert kept people away from its interior. Today, China is crossing those same dunes with highways, pipelines, and drilling rigs capable of reaching almost 11 kilometers underground. But this development is far from finished. How much recoverable oil and gas still lies beneath the deepest parts of the basin? And could the technology developed in the Taklamakan change how the rest of the world approaches ultra-deep energy resources? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.